Hi and welcome to another posting of this Mark II Jaguar and wide body 2-door coupe. We're just going to do a quick rundown on the exhaust system, which I've been working on for some time, as everything's some time with me in these projects. But anyway, so we're going to quickly go through that and then we're going to look at the Land Rover. So it's mainly about the Land Rover is this video. Now this might spill off into another video because it depends how far we can get with what I'm going to do with this video. So we'll first, like I said, go to the Mark II, we'll go through that and then we'll go to the Land Rover and we'll start with that. So to the back of the Jag.
So here we are under the car. So I mounted the exhaust in the diffuser. How on earth I managed to bolt it up before, I have no idea, but I absolutely proper couldn't get it bolted in, so I've had to chop a piece out to get to where the inlets are for the exhaust. So if you look at those layer underneath there, in there you can see where I've chopped out and the actual pipes leading to the exhaust. Because I've done that, it allows me now to be able to get more access, not just to the exhaust but also to the diff, which is a positive thing. So cutting it out, even though I didn't want to do, it made it better in that respect. So that part is in now. We'll go down there to the front, because I said I was going to join the two sets of runners together, and then it was bolted to the engine to make the whole set of runners rigid. So we'll look at that and then we'll look at the exhaust, which I've painted. So all the stainless steel brackets on them and mask them off. So we'll go and have a look at the headers and then we'll go look at the pipes and then we'll go then to the Land Rover. So as you can see, the bracket I've made, it's just spot welded on at the moment, but the brackets now tying these two together and onto the actual bell housing mounting plate, which is bolted to the engine. So that now is ready, and then all I need to do is make a shield, some mounting posts for a shield where the footwell comes in, because it's really close up to where the steering column comes out and the footwell, but not too close. But I'm going to put a shield on just to make sure that it doesn't get too hot there. So yeah, so let's go outside and look at the pipes.
So we have all the pipes, of which I sanded and masked off and painted. So the coupling ends, which I explained before, they were supposed to be stainless steel. Well, I assumed they were stainless steel until I looked at the thing on the eBay more close, and they're actually just chrome plated, which I had to machine off before I welded them. So, but it's still chrome, rest of it's still chrome. So I masked it off because I didn't want any paint on there. And I also didn't want any problems maybe with clamping. Plus it looks prettier. And the brackets, they're all stainless steel, which I used. So I masked those off just for a bit of a contrast. But that's just a matte black, high temperature heat resistant paint, which I've used. I sanded these completely down. So I got a good key, and then I pre-warmed them just to help start it off. So I got a good key, which I explained they need to be warm. So yeah, as you can see, that's what we have, and they're all the same. And the back, the silencer which I made, exactly the same. I masked off the two pipes where they went from stainless steel to steel, which these are what couple into it, and then yeah, so that's what we have. So here we are in the 101, which mainly, this, like I said, this video is going to be all obviously about this. We've touched on the Jag, what I've been doing there, but me and my son have been concentrating on trying to get this going. So last week and the week before, it was a case of finishing the piping off from the fuel tank, fueling that up, and then checking the system for fuel leaks. We had one which was the carburetor. Ultimately, it was the carburetor that was spewing it out of the back into the intake pipe and down into the airbox, and that was all. But we fixed that, which was just appeared to be a stuck float. So I just give it a carb tap, and that sorted that out. No more leakage. We come to get it going, and it wouldn't start. It was trying and kicking, and we'll try and show you what's doing in that respect, but she wouldn't start. So this video is going to be about what we've done to set it up, because I've not just thrown this in and I'm just crossing my fingers. We've gone through everything, and these carbs that I put on came off. I think it was a lightweight Land Rover 3.5 litre, but I'm not quite sure. But the chap said they came off a running engine. They'd just been stored in his garage when I bought them. So I assumed that they'd be perfectly okay and there were no problems with them. And the carbs that were on this were smashed up. Somebody's broken off the dash pots, and so the carb bodies were broken and stuff like that. So that's why I purchased these. But they're identical carbs for this engine and what came off it. So anyway, I'm going to run through what we did to set this up, what I've done, etc., and then I'll show you try to start it. So firstly, I determined top dead centre, true top dead centre, not just top dead centre that's on the flywheel. So I modified, in fact I'll take a picture, so Leo remind me of a picture for the pointer for the top dead centre mark on the pulley. So I'll show you that out in top corner of the screen. So I made an adjustable pointer to go along with true top dead centre. So then I could adjust that to top dead centre on the pulley, if you understand what I'm saying. So how did I find that? Well, there's a number of ways, but the easiest way, I made this. And basically this is an old spark plug, which I broke the ceramic out, and then I drilled and tapped it for this long bolt here, and then I put a locking nut on. And so what I did was I turned it to top dead centre on the marker, which was already obviously set, and then I backed it off a little bit, and then I screwed this in until it stopped, and then I screwed the bolt until it stopped on the piston. I locked the locking nut up, and then I rotated it backwards to the other side, so I knew that it was stopping before it got to top dead centre. Then I put some masking tape on the pulley, and I marked where the pointer was showing, and once I turned it around, I did it, and then I just halved that, and that gave me a true one. And then I adjusted, once I got it set, I trued my marker pointer on the engine I've made to my top dead centre to find top dead centre. So that's how I did that. So once I'd done that, it was setting up the distributor. Now this distributor, and I've not got any videos, in fact I don't even think I've got any pictures to show you, but what I did was, this is a 24 volt distributor, so this vehicle is 12 volts. I'm not sure if it was originally 24. I was checking something the other week, last week it was, because I couldn't get the fuel pump to work, and I put the wires on the oil pressure switch on the wrong way around, and I spent a day and a half checking everything, and I'd already done this when we was rebuilding this. So anyway, when I got eventually the fuel pump to work by putting wires on the right way around on the oil pressure switch, because there's 3 wires or 3 terminals on it, and there's 3 wires come, but there's 2 wires to one. And anyway, I'm not going to go through all that. But anyway, I got the fuel pump to work and was sorted, and the distributor, that's where the 24 volts comes into my mind. But the distributor, it's a 24 volt distributor, and it's insulated, it's shielded, so it's not got a normal distributor cap, 12 volt distributor cap on it. In fact, just hold on a second, I'll get one. So this is a standard Rover V8 distributor cap with its normal HT cables. for all intents and purposes, a perfectly good system. I have a distributor which should go in here to fit this on. But I wanted the shielded cables and the sealed distributor, because it's actually sealed, is the 24 volt distributor. So let me just get rid of that. And this is the 24 volt distributor cap with all the shielded cables. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but inside there is the distributor cap. So that's what I put on, and it's bolted down, so it's sealed, is this system. So once I'd determined my true top dead centre, I wanted to set my distributor up. Now these distributors have 2 sets of points in. Well, I got rid of the points in this system. I put a CDI pickup in. So the coil change, I put a coil to match with the ohmage range. I can't remember what it is, but the ohmage range to match the CDI pickup which I put inside. And it is for this engine what I used, but it was for the normal distributor and not this dual points distributor which I put on, which was 24 volts. So I took the plates out and I modified a plate and I put the pickup on there and I set it to where my top dead centre was. So when the rotor arm comes round to fire off on number 1, because I set it to number 1, where the pickup thing is underneath the rotor arm, I positioned that so that was in the centre, if you know what I mean. And then I just fastened it and I fixed it down, and then I did all the bits of wiring, and then that comes out and that goes to my coil. So the ballast resistor has gone. I have no need for that because I'm not running points. Anyway, that's how I understand it anyway. So I have that set up. That was all right. So then I had to set the distributor now to my timing point. So I went online. Well, I went into the book and it said 3 degrees. I went online and it said 6 degrees before top dead centre. So, and everybody was saying 6 degrees. So I've set it at 6 degrees. Now at this point, some people had said that you can set it more advanced, and then once it starts pinking, because you can just advance it then until the pinking disappears. But ultimately it's close to where it should be, so it should fire up on that. So I used, what I did was, because some people are saying, well, you can't put a strobe gun on a shielded cable. Well, you can, because what you have to do is, let me get it here, you have to remove this bit that screws into the spark plug. So there's a little screw thing, you won't be able to see it right well, but basically it screws into the end of the ceramic there. Well, it goes into the end of the ceramic there, and the HT cable, which is sat inside here, that screws into. Once you've unscrewed that, that then just pulls off. Once you've undone the nut, because there's a nut like there is there, you unscrew that and then that just pulls out. Once that's pulled out, you have the HT cable open. I got this spark plug cap off my GPZ 1100 motorbike I have, so I put that on, put the plug in the end, and then I put my pickup the right way around onto the HT cable. And obviously I took number 1 cable out of my distributor and screwed this in. So that was how I got to be able to time up my 24 volt system. Now, I've not been online to see how other people set the distributor on this. This was the easiest way that I could accommodate my strobe gun with this setup. So there might be people out there says, oh yeah, you just do this. Probably, but I don't know. I didn't look it up. It was something that was easy enough for me to accomplish. So turn the engine over and adjusted the distributor. Lovely jubbly. We got that spot on at 6 degrees. So that's what I've set it at. So once I'd done that, let's put this down out of the way here. Once I'd set that, oh, by the way, on the back of this gun, I set it at 0 to start with, and I set it to 6 degrees on the pulley. And then to make sure it was 6 degrees, I put 6 degrees on here, and it went to top dead center on the pulley. So it was verifying on both sides that I'd set it at 6 degrees. And I was getting a good spark from the plug. So I was happy that the ignition side of it is good. And it's firing at the right place, as people saying it's 6 degrees. So I'm not going to argue toss about whether it's 6 or it's 3 or whatever. What I will do is I will adjust it accordingly when I get the engine running, whether it's pinking heavy or I can put more degrees on it, because some people said more degrees before top dead center, but we'll see. But I will set it up and do that fine tuning later. So once I've gone through my fueling, so I got fuel into the carbs, I've done my ignition set, I've got a good spark, it's timed up right through my strobe gun. It was checking compressions. Now this engine had been stood for a long time, so when I got this motor, first thing I did was, because I didn't know why it had been laid up, so it was like, okay, then let's find out if the engine's buggered. Easiest way is turn it over. If it was seized, then the engine, I would have completely decked the engine and found out what was wrong with it. I put a spanner on and it instantly turned. I didn't have to swing on it to get it to turn, it just turned. It wasn't locked up, even just from a bit of condensation. There was nothing, it turned straight away. And it wasn't tight, it wasn't loose, it was just, it felt okay. When I pulled the engine out, I took the sump off, I took the induction manifold off, the rocker covers off, water pump off, checked everything in that respect. The mains, big ends, they all looked well. The piston bores, you could still see the cross hatching where it had been machined from manufacture. So this engine has got nothing on it in relation to mileage. So I was happy there, so I didn't go any further in pulling the engine apart. We just put new gaskets on those items we'd dismantle from the engine and put it back together. I'd noticed that it was leaking on a couple of the intake ports on the manifold. But like I said, new gaskets and sealed up and everything, so that will have obviously sorted that out. So it was checking compression. So we went through, so I've got a snap-on compression gauge. So you just screw that into the spark plug hole, couple that onto there, and then just turn it over. And so we turned it over, and for an engine that had been stood for years, wasn't too bad actually. So I'll go through a few of them. So number 1 cylinder, we got bearing in mind, I'm informed that 155 pound per square inch is roughly roundabouts where it should be. 130. I've got some people saying 130. I'm not a big person on these engines, so I don't know. But basically, if I'm getting 130 psi, I was doing all right in here in this system. So number 1, like I said, bearing in mind it's been stood. 70 psi in number 1. That was the lowest I had on this engine. The highest I had was number 6 at 170, and they were all between roughly roundabouts 140 to 155. Number 5 cylinder I got 100 psi, and that's just my initial turning this over from being stood from doing nothing for years. So obviously the rings are a bit stuck in these, I would say. That's my initial thought. When oil starts getting around it and fuel gets in, and then those are settled up. So after we tried it last week, trying to get it going, because this is the whole videos about trying to get this thing going, why it's not going, and the things I've done to make sure it would start. It wouldn't start. It was trying, it was kicking at times, and it was really trying to kick itself into life, but it just wouldn't give that last push and get going. I went over the pressures again, so I went on to the lowest one. So I went on number 1 and number 5 to see what those pressures, and they'd boosted up to pretty much where they should be. So it's not that I don't have compression while this engine's not running. I have compression, and they're pretty much where they should be. And like I say, for an engine that's been stood for so long. So I'll show you it trying to start. Whether it kicks into in any kind of life, I very much doubt. We was trying all day last Saturday to try and get this thing going and checking things and playing around with the choke cable, because the choke cable was a bit sticky, so we did all that, and we tried all sorts. And it is fresh fuel, by the way, as well, fresh from the Sainsbury's petrol station the other week, so it's not a fuel related issue, and there's no stagnant fuel being in it either. This thing has been, like I said, well, if you watch my videos of rebuilding and repairing the fuel tank, so it's all a dry system, so it's all fresh fuel in this. There are no air leaks in it. I've checked everything in relation to air leaks. The dash pots, there's oil in there, so it's not just pulling the slides up and choking it out or anything like that. She will not just kick into life, and I think there's something, probably because the carbs are being stood from the vehicle they came off. Maybe it's got some sedimentary rubbish in there from the fuel drying out, and it's blocked the idler jets or something like that. I'm not big on these Zenith carbs, so what this video is, like I say, it's going to be about pulling this thing apart, going through the carbs, cleaning them off, resetting them to what they're supposed to be set from at the book, and then putting it back on. And then hopefully, cross fingers, she'll fire up and she'll be sweet, and then I can put the water in and everything else. The reason why I've not put water in is just simply because if something is buggered in the engine, which I've not noticed, because like I said, I didn't pull all the caps off of the big ends and the mains. They looked okay, they didn't look to be any filings, there was no muck, there was nothing, it was pristine in there, so I thought I'll just leave it and we'll fire her up, and if she knocks, then yeah, it's going to have to be an engine out, a pull down, but that's not where we are at the moment, and I'm hoping that's not where it goes. It's just carbs. So let me show you this, trying to fire this thing up, where you'll hear it just churning, hopefully, and then we'll just get into the video of pulling this thing apart. So let's try and get this thing going. So right, so here we go. Let's try and fire fire it up. I was just saying to my son while we're getting this thing ready for videoing, won't it be just fun if it just fires up? And we were trying all last Saturday and it wouldn't have a thing really. So anyway, here we go. So choke's on. I've got my hand on the throttle to give it a little bit of chugger as it were, and we'll crank her over. And this battery's been on charge as well for 2 days, and I've got a big diesel battery on this, so she's got some good cranking amps, so it's not electrical starvation neither. So here we go. As you can hear the fuel pump go in there. Let me take choke off, see if anyway, so there you go. A perfect example of how an engine doesn't run. So yeah, so as you can see, she's not doing anything. Like I say, last week, now and again, I had some kicks and she really did try to start up, but it wasn't, you could tell it wasn't right. I was pulling some of the plugs out and they were wet, which seems strange because I've got new plugs in this. and she just, like I said, she wasn't playing games at all. She, like I said, she tried, but it literally wasn't going to go. So the only conclusion I have, if I've got good ignition, I've got a good spark, I've got fuel, but it doesn't seem to be transferring into the engine starting, and all I can think of is the carburation, because I've got compression, I've got spark, and ignition's right. So anyway, we're going to pull the carbs, and I think it's the carbs. So that's going to be the video. I was pulling the carbs off, so clips of that, and then stripping them down, resetting them. So we'll have bits of video of that, and then putting it back together, and yeah, hopefully she'll fire. If she doesn't, at least we've gone over the carbs, and we will be able to discount the carbs as being the problem with this vehicle starting up. So let's get into it. Carbs. So we've managed to get all the nuts off the carbs. As you will have seen, we've got the offside carb off, and we've just managed to get off the last nut for this carb. Let's just get that out of the way. And so that was a joy. I think we had to use 3 different spanners to try and get to all these nuts, and yeah, so it's been a bit of a nightmare try to get to those, but we've done it. So I'll carefully pull this off, and Leo can get the washers so they don't drop down, but they've dropped down anyway.
Not a big issue.
Is that it? So that's a carb off. So what we're going to do is we're going to get to the bench, clean the bench up, and then we'll start stripping these down, and we'll get into the PDF and look at the settings and everything for these, and see exactly what we've got and where they need to be, and hopefully we can find maybe what's causing the problem. But the offside carb had fuel in, so it's not that it's not getting fuel into it. And we've got fuel there as well, so I don't know what's going on, but we'll find out. So what we've got here is the 2 carbs, and they do have petrol in. So got tools and stuff. So me and my son are going to pull a carb apart each. Once we've got it apart, periodically we're going to be checking things before we continue to strip it down, like floor tight and that sort of thing, I think, and just check everything as we pull it apart, and then we'll give it a good clean. Then we're going to reset and measure and everything, all the things that need to be done. And I've got my PDF on my phone for the workshop manual for these carbs, well, for the whole vehicle. So in there, I saw it last week for adjusting things and whatever else it needs doing. So hopefully we can get this thing sorted out, and that this is the problem. When we took the near side carb off, there was quite a bit of fuel on the main pipe going in. So whether it's because it's flooding it up, I don't know. It could be, but we'll see. Anyway, so let's get to it. in there. Just watch your head a sec, Leo. You probably won't be able to see it. There's quite a bit of rubbish in there. See if I can scrape a bit of something out for you. Maybe you might be able to see. So I don't know if you'll be able to see the rubbish. That's just the bottom of the float bowl. So I was suspecting, you might not be able to see. I'm just going to try and zoom into it a bit. Just on end at screwdriver. You see that? Not sure. Anyway, that's quite a bit of rubbish to say that's just in bottom of float bowl. So, yeah, rubbish. So, the first signs aren't that good really. But then again, I suppose it's encouraging in a sense that there is some rubbish there. So maybe that is the cause of the problem. Not sure about the float outlet, so we're going to have to measure all this and check it. I think it's just, so I'm checking it to see if there's any liquid inside. See if the floats was broken and they'd ruptured in any way, there'd be fuel inside and you'd be able to hear it, and I can't hear anything. So that seems okay. Yes, I suppose I could get some cup of water and float them in, but there's nothing in it, so I'm gonna count that as good. I might get it just to pacify myself and those who are watching. Right, so you can see me and my son stripping down the carburetors. I've not done a video of me setting them up or anything like that, but I'm going to go through it just somewhat vaguely with you. As you can see, the carbs are back on the engine, and I tried starting it yesterday, so I've been working on this Thursday and Friday. It's now Saturday, and it was last Saturday when me and my son took the carbs and stripped them down. The things that we found in the carburetor, so the near side carburetor, originally when we first fueled it up and it was pumping fuel out, it was pumping it out of the back of the carburetor, out of one of the, I think it was this hole here. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but anyway, at the back of the carb, it's a breather for the float chamber. That was just pumping it out. I give it a tap and that seemed to fix it. But when we pulled it apart, that carb valve was leaking, which is actually, I put it in here just to keep it, to show you what I'm going to do, what I did with these. Anyway, so I pressure checked those to make sure that they're okay. So this is the old carburetor from this engine. So I got, like I say, I got another set which appeared to be a more modern set than this set, but I don't know the numbers. Anyway, so there were quite a bit of dirt in them, but I was surprised how basic these carbs really were. They've just got one main jet, and it's controlled literally by the needle for metering the fuel. But anyway, they seem to be happy enough with these carbs on these engines. So anyway, so what did I do? So stripped them down, we cleaned them out, they blew it all out, checked everything. There's these, don't know if you want to see them, there's these yellowy, whitish off coloured things at the side, and I think they're for flashback. So if you get a flashback in the carb, it goes from one side of the piston for the slide to the other side, and I think it's for the flashback. It doesn't blow into the slide and damage the diaphragms. I think that's what it's for. It doesn't seem to serve any other purpose than that, but they were stuck. So there's these, I think there's some kind of fibre piston that sits in the main body, and there's a spring and that holds it down. Well, they were both stuck, so, and they were stuck open, so that meant it was pulling air in from the back of the carb here to the front of the carb. So I thought, oh, that's maybe one of the main issues, that and the float flooding it up. So I did that. I didn't find any other faults really with the carbs, like I say, dirt and just these stuck. There didn't appear to be any blockages anywhere in there or anything like that. So I thought that'll be, I just reset the carbs and then I can put them back on and fire it up. Well, I put them back together after I set them up, nothing. Well, I say nothing, it kicked a few times as it has been doing before I pull the carbs off. So I thought, that's no good, obviously. We're getting nowhere here, but we're narrowing down where the problem is possibly lying, and I've still not got it going. Today is hopefully going to be the day when we get it going, but I'm halfway through. So what did I do to the carbs to set them up? So I've got a PDF of the workshop manual for this. So I checked to make sure that the carbs was good. Obviously I had to check the spec of the float height. So I checked the floats, there was nothing in them, they're floating, they're quite happy. In the manual it says that the float height, so from this area here, this corner here, to the face of the body is between 16 and 17 millimeters. So you put this rule on there, measure it off, and they were bang on, both were bang on, there was no problem there. So they went back together. Then it was setting up the butterfly. So the butterfly. So there isn't an air bypass screw on this carburetor to set the actual tick over height range on them. It's actually the butterfly, and it's got a adjusting screw here, which you probably won't be able to see, but it's on the side of the body on this actual actuator. So that's got to be adjusted and set. So what I did was, in the book, it didn't give a specific measurement with a feeler gauge in the top of here. So you measure between the top of the butterfly on the top of the carb and the butterfly when it's closed. And one was measuring 0.19 and other was measuring 0.9 of a millimetre. For all those that's into metric, I don't know what is in imperial, I didn't check it out, but anyway. So between just short of 0.2 of a millimetre and 0.09, so it's just under. So there was that is quite a difference between the two openings. So I chose to set the small one to 0.19. So I adjusted it on this adjusting screw here and remeasured it to set them both at 0.19 of a millimetre, so that the air passing through it should be pretty much where it should be. Then I set the fast idle for the choke. Now this carb doesn't have the choke mech on, it's the other one. But there's a adjuster, you open it up and you have to set the actual butterfly here. Same thing again. So when you pull the choke out, it goes on for fast idle. So it's fueling it up and it's opened up the throttle as well to let more air in, which obviously brings up the revs. The actual measurement is 0.65, which is I thought it was quite a lot actually. But anyway, that was on fully open with this thing fully open, so it's for really cold starts. So I set that, and that was done. So that was set. Then I put the whole thing back together. Fueled it back up. Oh, and one other thing, there's some adjusters bolts here on the side of on both of them. So you slacken those off, you couple it up, but they're not connected up as they should be, in other words in tandem, because you've got to set both to make sure that they're both running the same amount of airflow. So there's a screw on here, a little screw, and one on the other carb, which has to be loose to make sure that one carb isn't influencing the other carburetor. So they are actually now independent, set to just the butterfly, which I did at 0.19 of a mil. So they're loose, and like I say, I tried to tighten it, nothing. So I was scratching my head thinking it is trying. I've had it kicked now again, but it's literally, it's not really doing anything. So what else have I done to this engine? So I know I've got a spark, I've checked it, and then I've strobed it up. So it's strobed correct, I've got compression, and I've got fuel, and I've checked the car, I've rebuilt the carbs, and they're perfectly okay, really. It should have run before, I would have said. I think it just maybe been a bit lumpy, maybe, or something like that, or maybe slightly out of balance. But it should have run, but it literally just kicking now and again, and then just nothing, which you've seen in the video. So what have I done that could possibly change something here? Well, I modified the distributor to CDI, but this particular distributor, so this distributor in, so all those that's into the 101s, well, military, because they have insulated cables for radio on them and whatever else they insulate them for. But I talked to my friend that was in REME, who was a staff sergeant. He's telling me that it was mainly for radio, was these insulations on the distributor. And the distributor is a big aluminium box, really, with the distributor sat inside it, instead of the normal distributor with the normal cap. So I thought, I've played with the distributor, so I modified it. So in this distributor's on here is a 24 volt distributor, but it's got two sets of points. So not sure if you'll be able to see that, but there's two sets of points in there. And I didn't want points. I can set points, I have no trouble adjusting points that. But they do pit and burn out, and they're just more trouble than they're worth, really. Especially when you've got CDI pickups now, which just are so way much better. So I modified the distributor. So I took all the scubbins out, I reset, So I got the position from the pickup here and marked it onto my new pickup and the magnetic thing that sits over the top with all its 8 points on it, and I set the rotor arm to the distributor cap and I marked everything and I set it and drilled it and fastened it in. And when, like I said, when I strobed it up, it was giving me exact where I should be. So my head's like, it must be something in the distributor. That's where my theory is going at the moment. So I pulled the distributor cap off, and this is what's inside of it. So that's bolted into this aluminium. And when I took it off, the centre pin, you won't be able to see it here, but let me just take my glove off. You might be able to see it a little bit better. Don't know if you can see that. But anyway, that pin, this is a carbon pin. And this carbon pin sits in the middle of this cap. And what it does is, if the power that comes in, talking to the people that already know, but just if you don't, power comes into the main point here from the coil, which is controlled by which would have normally been points. And it distributes power at exactly the right time through the rotor arm to each individual point for the cylinders around the cap. Well, that was off. It was broken off. And I found it in the bottom of the distributor. So I thought, that's it. Once the compression comes up to fire off, the spark is trying to find the easiest path to earth. So instead of sparking across the plug, it's the earth is running across the insulation, and it was sparking across the rotor to what would have been where the pin is inside this dizzy cap. And I thought, that's why, because it's under duress in the engine. Outside of the engine, it sparks quite happy. So I thought, that's it. So luckily, I had another cap. So I took all the cables off, put them on this new dizzy cap, reset it all up, made sure all my cables are going to right plugs. Thought, I've got it now. Turned it over, nothing. And I thought, this is impossible. Everything's there to get this thing running, and yet it's not. And so it was like, right, okay. So I've got a spark, I've found a problem, I've fixed that, it's still not running. So, but it was like I say, we are cutting through errors and making sure that we are covered in the areas. So the carbs, I'm confident now the carbs are pretty close to being as they should be. The only thing I need to do with the carbs is when it's running, I've got an airflow meter which goes in the back of the carb, thus on each one, and I just measure off the airflow, and I'll do it on both carbs like so, and then I will adjust accordingly. And it says I run the engine at running temperature at 600 RPM. That's what it's supposed to be set at. And you just the distributor and stuff for the advanced mechanism to measure it from 600 to 2300, something silly. Anyway, but that's the only thing I have to do to the carbs. But they should be pretty close, because like I say, I set them with the feeler gauges. So I know that they're good. The compressions I've checked, I have all good compression, enough, more than enough in most cylinders. Number one was the lowest, but when I rechecked it, that had come up. So that was just short of the ballpark figure of where it should be. So I know that the compression's there. It's got new fuel in, so I know I've no problem there. I appear to have a good spark, but it's not doing anything. So the dizzy cap, that pin missing, I thought, still not going. So what else? So where I'm at is, the only thing that's left is, obviously it must be something to do with the pickup I put in. Now it's not that it's not causing that I have a good spark. I won't even put my finger on it, it's that good, it will give me a belt. So I know I have a good spark, but there must be something what I've done. So I put the compression tester back on number one cylinder, because you start with number one. I turn the engine over by hand on the front pulley until the needle started coming up on number 1 because that's what I plumbed it into. As soon as I got that, I put it on top dead centre on my pulley, on my pointer, on the crank. So I know that that's correct because I know the engine's correct. And then I took the dizzy cap cover back off to look at exactly where the rotor was in relation to number 1. So that, I don't know, you won't be able to see it, but number 1 cable here, which is at the back here. I would roughly say it's probably about 11 o'clock on the distributor, where I have it sat at the moment in relation to running in line with the vehicle. So I looked at the rotor arm with the cap, and it was in line but forward. So as it's rotating round, so it's running clockwise, is the rotor inside the dizzy. Because the firing sequence is, let me just check it, 18436572. So when I looked at my cables, that's all that we're doing. So I know that's the sequence and my cables are telling me that, so I know that that's correct. So when I looked at it, my rotor was forward. So I think what's happening is that the rotor is coming past the point on the distributor cap, and it's coming away from it to the next one, which is number 8. And I think same thing as with the pin that was broken. I think what's happening is it's under load, the spark is finding easiest path across from the point there to the rotor, which is extinguishing the spark on the plug, which when it gets flooded, that's it. And I think that's what's been happening, the spark's in here. So I took the whole setup what I put in out, and I've slotted the base plate. So this base plate here, what the points mount to, I've slotted the holes, there's 3 holes, and I've slotted it and I've turned it so that it's actually advanced, so it will bring it, the rotor arm, at the point of timing against each other, so that it's coming onto the point here. So as it advances and retards the rotor arm through its bob weights, it will stay in the realms of the point there. So that's what I've done. So now I'm in the process of resetting this back up. So I've got my trusty cable, which I can put on my not my dwell meter, my strobe gun, and then I can reset the distributor, and hopefully we'll get this so that it's actually running the way I want it. And I think that is my problem, that I've had a spark in the distributor cap that's been running in there, and it's not been able to ignite the plugs and the fuel. But hopefully that's where we are, and we'll get it going, and I'll show you when I'm strobing it up, when I've got that set up.
So what we're going to do is I'm just going to show you the spark, so to show that we do have a good spark. So hopefully this camera, it's a little handheld thing which I've talked about before with my son, but hopefully this will be able to see the spark, to show you that we do have a nice crisp spark. It's not weak in any way. So we'll turn it, Leo's going to turn it off, and then he's going to zoom in into the spark plug. So here we go. Crank her up. See that? Right, so we're going to strobe it up. So I'll show you me strobing it, and then we're going to show you it's strobed up. So because Leo can't get down to this here from his position and turn it key, so I'm going to strobe it first, and then when it's set, then we'll get you to have a look, and hopefully this is going to sort it out. So when you're ready, Leo. And I've set it to 0. So my 6-degree mark is on the flywheel like before. Then I'll set it at 6, and then I'll check it to make sure it's on top dead centre. Okay, right. When you're ready, fire her up. Let me put it on 6 just to check it. Again, turn it over. Right, so Leo's going to come round here and then he's going to strobe it and you'll be able to see it, hopefully. The sun's shining on a bit, which is strange. We don't get much sun coming in here, but we've got a bit of sun, so it's lighting up a little bit, so it might be a little bit difficult to see it, but it's there. So Leo's going to come. Right, so some good news. Well, it's brilliant news actually, but it could be better. But here, this is where we are. Tried it, as you've seen, no joy. And I've been scrapping. Everything is as it should be, and it still wasn't doing it. So I'll go into some old hacks. When I was a younger man, when I used to ride pit bikes. They weren't the best of things, and so you learn how to get these things going. And one of the ways you used to get them going is heating the plugs up, and then they'd run. Well, as soon as the plug was hot, it would run, and they'd be quite happy. Even when you stopped it, it'd start again. But when it was cold, wouldn't have it. So I thought, I'll warm plugs up, dry them out, pardon me, and I tried that. And one of the things I'd noticed, 1 and 5 cylinders was getting wet, but the rest of them weren't. Even though I've got compression on all cylinders, so they must be feeding air. Anyway, so I tried that, it still didn't work. So I said to Leo, let's measure the airflow just to see what airflow we've got on the carbs while I'm cranking it over, just to see if it's actually drawing any air in. Because I even put fuel into the carbs through Venturi to see if I had a problem there, and it made no difference whatsoever. So I put the plugs, I took them out, I dried them back off, and one of the things, the other hacks we used to do was make the gap smaller, so that the spark, the system wasn't stressed. That's how I looked at it, and that used to help until they got warm. Then put the right plug, another plug in, or we'd just leave it if it seemed to be running right. So I made the plugs smaller, so I made the gap to 0.15 of a millimetre, which is quite small. We cleaned them all back up, put them in, and then this is what happened. So hopefully you'll be able to see what's gone. So choke on. Obviously the carbs aren't balanced up right yet, but this is what we've got. So I have 1 and 2 cylinders off, 5 and 8 off. When I've taken the plugs out of these, number 1's been flooded. I've not checked number 2, and number 8 I checked and it was dry. So I don't know what's going on there. What I'll do is I'm running out of time now, so I'm going to we'll wrap it up in front, but we're getting there. I know now that ignition's correct, and that the fueling is there, so I know it's not that. So I just have to now work out why these cylinders aren't firing up. So it'll be a case of clean the plugs up, and I'm going to re-gap it all. Now I know the cylinders that's on now are running, I can re-gap those and set those, and hopefully that'll make that right. So we'll finish off at front at Landi and we'll call it a day. Right, so on the wrapping up scene for Saturday, because he's getting on a bit now, I'm chuffed that we've got 4 out of 8 cylinders running, and I am chuffed because it's taken the equation where I was looking at it and thinking there was something wrong physically with the engine to not so much, and it's quiet. What I'm finding is my oil light's not going out, and my fuel pump, when it starts up, the fuel pump stops working, and that's all part of the circuit for the oil pressure switch. So I might have got a wires crossed there, so I'm going to check that.
I'm obviously going to check oil flow as well from the pump, because the last thing I want to do is whack the engine. And so, but she's quiet, it's not noisy at all, except for the cylinders it's off, it's not doing anything. And she's actually not smoking, even though, you know, it's had quite a bit of fuel in as we've been trying to get this thing going. Obviously there's a lot of refining to do now, but I'm chuffed, and the exhaust sounds quite good. And I think when it's on all 8, we'll get back at exhaust and see what that note is. But I'm chuffed, I am. I don't know how long it's been, it wasn't running before I got it, and it's been quite a number of years since we are now, so yeah. Anyway, that's where we are at. I've not touched the Jag because I spent quite a bit of time trying to get this going, because I wanted to get something showing that I've got something running, and we're pretty much there now. So I'm chuffed. It's like I say, it's just streamlined now, find out what's going on. But once I'm happy with these things, and then we'll do another video of it completely running properly and it all balanced up. So I'll show you the balancing as well of the carbs. But I was getting good airflow on both sides of the carb when I just stuck the meter on, just to see if I was actually drawing air into the system, because I didn't know that either. But yeah, so as always, I'm grateful for all your inputs, and I know that there have been people who have sent me messages, and I should have wrote them down. I've completely forgotten. I've been busy with one thing or another. I've been poorly as well last few weeks, so I just completely forgotten. I should have written down, but I will do. So the next video I will go through those people that put input in for the Jag and this Landi. And yeah, like I say, thank you for your input, your likes and your subscribes. I'd still like to see more, but what I have is good, and you know, be thankful for small mercies. But yeah, you all take it steady and have a good one, and next time, cross fingers, this will be spot on, and we can move on to next parts. And like I say, I'm going to start ordering some stuff for panelling and the wheel storages, which I'm doing as well. So like I say, once again, thank you very much, and you all take it steady until next video, and yeah, keep it rolling.